Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is Elle, and I'm back again today to read some Law of One material and share with you my perceptions and reflections on the matter. So today, yesterday, somebody asked me a question about polarity, and they were saying, do you have a specific podcast on polarity? Which would be like the two paths that we get to choose in this third density that we currently inhabit, which may also be referred to as the choice. So yeah, I figured I don't know if I really have done an exact podcast on this, and here we are. So let us roll into this here. All right, so first of all, theoneinfinitecreator.com. You can find links to all this material where I have a website where I have created links to LL research materials. So go ahead and check them out, and you can find this here. So I'm going to read from the Law of One, the raw material. This is going to be from session 19.17. And let's just begin. I'll read a quote, and then I'm just going to wing it and let you know what I can tell you about these things. So, quote, 1917, the questioner asks, "Can you tell me what bias creates their momentum toward the chosen path of service to self?" Ra answers, "Ra, I am Ra. We can speak only in metaphor. Some love the light, some love the darkness. It is a matter of the unique and infinitely various Creator choosing and playing among its experiences as a child upon a picnic. Some enjoy the picnic and find the sun beautiful, the food delicious, the games refreshing, and glow with the joy of creation. Some find the night delicious, their picnic being pain, difficulty, suffering of others, and examination of the perversities of nature. These enjoys a different picnic. All these experiences are available. It is free will of each entity which chooses the form of play, the form of pleasure." Ra, the Law of One, session 19.17. Okay, so I'm just using that quote to jump off into this sort of topic where we're going to go over quite a few things here. Just to give you an idea, we'll talk about polarity, the positive path, the negative path. We're going to talk about pre-incarnative choices in regards to that. We're going to be talking about how to change your polarity if maybe you've already gone down a path and you're trying to switch it. We're going to be talking about how this sort of is metaphorically similar to electricity. We are going to talk about the three-way split that happens on Earth come sort of harvest time or the end of times, where there will be a three-way split. How is there three ways to split when it's only two paths to choose? Well, I will explain. And then we're going to talk about, I suppose, just the rays and the chakras and how those are related. Basically, how service to self uses their full chakra system or not, and service to others similar. So, okay, let's start. So, this probably needs to start with just quick background. I know you guys probably listen to me often, and you've probably heard this over and over, but I just got to do it for anybody who hasn't maybe listened to these podcasts before. So we are in the third density. This is the third density. Well, each density has certain lessons, okay? So the third density main lesson is the choice, as it's referred to. So the choice to serve others or to serve the self. And service to others includes service to self, which we're going to be explaining here in quite detail. But the idea is that you can think of the service to self path as them perceiving that essentially they're kind of the center of the universe, and they feel that they need to manipulate everything for their benefit, just basically manipulate you and anything in their experience to benefit themselves, because they're sort of the creator, I suppose. Versus the service to others path, which is going to be recognizing that both self and other self are all of the creator. We are all little versions of the creator. And therefore, we go out, we serve ourselves, and we serve others, right? So it's not that we need to manipulate others for ourselves. We go out and we try to help ourselves, and we at the same time try to help other people. So, it's not like one or the other. It's two in one, okay? So the service to others path is like two in one, and the service to self path is just one out of two. So that's why the service to self path is described elsewhere as the path that is not, versus the service to others path, which is, I guess, the path that is, right? However, the creator neither blinks at the dark or the light. This experience requires us to have free will, and that's sort of the whole point, is that you get to come somewhere where you have no idea what's totally true and what's not true, and you get to decide, hey, do I want to serve myself exclusively at the benefit myself at the expense of other people, or am I going to go out and try to be a healthy version of myself and share and help other people be, the best versions of themselves? So there you go. You have a little brief understanding of the sort of two paths and their perceptions. And let's go into now, I suppose, let's talk about, well, how this is sort of like electricity. So I have another quote here from Ra, which they talk about this being sort of like a charged. Okay, so let's think of life in the universe as sort of an electrical phenomenon. Okay, so like in electricity, you have a north pole and a south pole. Okay, so you have sort of like the left-hand path and the right-hand path. As you are polarized, you are basically either have the polarity on the left or the right-hand path, or the north or south pole. And basically, for electricity to do work, it needs to be on either the north or south pole. Like it just can't be in a neutral state. There's no power that can flow through if it's in a neutral state. It needs to be either positively or negatively charged, so it can move energy, electricity through the system. Okay, so this is the same idea as us. We are sort of electrical beings, and you would consider sort of the electrical part of your body to be sort of your metaphysical body. So if you've ever heard of the chakras, 7 chakra system, it's basically just energy coming up into your body through red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, comes up through your energy centers. And basically, depending on your polarity, it's almost like what do they say? The coil is already wrapped in potential, and all it takes is just the choice to basically polarize, the choice to serve others or to serve self, which allows the electricity into the system, which allows you to do work. So basically, if you are polarized, you are able to do work, right? Like, I don't know how you want to take that metaphorically, moving it forward. You can. I won't right now, but you can just sort of see how you need to sort of have an intention in order to move along in this spiritual path, if you will. The lack of intention will sort of put you in a neutral state. And let's talk about that neutral state while we speak, while I'll tell you about this three-way split. Okay, so this is relevant. So the three-way split is basically talking about how right now in the Earth and our third density, I'm aware that we are transitioning to the fourth density. So essentially, we're just moving from grade 3 to grade 4, if you want to make it simple. Okay. Now the passing grade is, well, if you're on the service to others path, I hate giving these numbers, and I'll explain why, but on the service to others path, you must be 51% in intention, action, and essentially everything in order to make the grade to graduate. Okay, so 51% in intention, action, thought, deed, etc. Service to others. Okay, that's how you graduate on out of here. If you're the service to self path, even though even though it's 99%, there's something like that. Like they have to 99% be on the negative polarity path. They have to 99% control and manipulate everything to their benefit in order to graduate from this density. So what my understanding is that they've said in this material is that although it may seem maybe 99 versus 51%, why the disparity, right? It's actually because it's just as hard to be 51% service to others as it is just as hard to be 99% service to self. Both require somewhat the same amount of power, I guess would be a way of stating it, to graduate. Okay, so there you go. So you have your left hand and your right hand path. Okay, the left hand path is, I don't want to get them mixed up, the left hand path is the negative path, the right hand path is the positive path. Now, what is the three-way split? Well, let me tell you, unfortunately, there is a third option in between these two choices, which is basically the non-option. It's essentially the non-choice. So you can choose the left-hand path or the right-hand path, or you choose nothing. Or possibly what you've done is you've chosen the left-hand path and the right-hand path and the left-hand path and the right-hand path over and over and over again, where you've basically just not made a choice. You're not, right? Like the magnet can't do work when it's going from negative polarity to positive polarity back and forth. It's just going to become neutral again, and it can't do work. Okay, so that's the idea. They call that middle path the sinkhole of indifference. So Well, I don't know if I need to say much more than that. I guess the sinkhole of indifference, what I would suggest, what happens there is that it's not like a punishment. I know it seems bad, okay? Like if you have relatives, family, or friends, and you think, man, these guys are going to probably fall into this whole sinkhole of indifference. Well, it's okay. The nature of this universe, to my understanding, is that as we graduate from this planet, if we graduate on the positive path with the planet, we'll move on with the planet and move on individually, possibly, if that is what our soul dictates for us, sort of in a way. And if you're on the negative path, then you're going to polarize negatively and graduate, and probably what they say is that the Earth is going to be a positive polarity planet in its next density. It's just the nature of the choice that we've sort of made already in that regard. But the service to self path then is going to go to a negative planet where they can practice the ways of 4D negative service to self path. So they graduate on, move on to a different planet, they keep practicing their lessons, or you're in the positive path and you get to move on to the fourth density positive Earth, or you're in the sinkhole of indifference, in which case the creator will relocate you to another planet to repeat the third density experience. Right? So it's just basically like you gotta redo third grade. That obviously, like in school and things like that, that doesn't sound necessarily good, right? Nobody wants to have to repeat a grade. But at the same part, you shouldn't be moving forward if you haven't done your base work, right? You don't need to move on to grade 4 if you don't understand grade 3. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you progress. So that's the whole idea, is free will here. Just to make it clear, the creator loves you, has grace, infinite timelines where you can take it sort of as much time as you want to make this choice and make your way back to the creator in whichever way you see fit. The beauty here is that you have that choice to make in whichever way you want, and you are free to do that, and you can take as much time as you'd like. So there is your 3-way split. Let's now let's go a little higher up here, all right? Let's talk about chakras. So remember how I said is the path that is and the path that is not? Well, how dare I, right? How dare I say, this you're on the wrong path? I'm not trying to say wrong path, but let's just describe chakras a bit, because this was kind of enlightening to me. So the service to others path, well, first of all, every entity incarnating has, the 7 main chakras: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The service to others path is going to utilize all 7 of the chakra systems. So we're going to use survival of the red, and we're going to feel good about that, and we're going to move up to our personal chakra, the orange one, where we're going to feel good about that, and then we're going to move up into the communal chakra. We're going to sort of be community, feeling good about being part of our community, empowered. We're going to move on up to the heart chakra, going to feel universal love and compassion for all. We're going to move up into the throat chakra, the blue one. We're going to free communication. We're going to express what was previously in the previous chakra in our heart. Then we'll move on up to the blue indigo chakra, into the third eye chakra, where we're going to have a sort of sense of unity with the creator. Silence even is a good description there. Meditative, things of that nature are of the indigo ray. And then of the violet ray, which is harder to explain the higher we go up, because you're contacting infinity and the creator, but the violet ray is sort of the overall readout of your entire energy system, but also, somewhat to be activated there is to enter a sort of timeless state with the creator. So that is your description of chakras very, very briefly here. The service to others entity is going to utilize all of those chakras. The service to self entity is going to skip the heart chakra. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. The service to self entity is going to skip the heart chakra. So what they do is they utilize their first 3 chakras, which I have written down here from Raw, just in case you guys don't believe me. So session 39.12, I'm just going to read this to you quickly here. 39.12, the questioner asks, is this also true of all the other rays? Ra answers, Ra, I am Ra, we shall answer briefly. You may question further at another working. Okay, so the negative ray pattern is the red, orange, yellow, moving directly to blue, this being only used in order to contact intelligent infinity. In positively oriented entities, the configuration is even, crystallinely clear, and of the 7-ray description. Okay, so that's the end of the quote there. So you can see here, they say the negative ray pattern is red, orange, yellow. So those are your bottom three chakras, red, orange, yellow. Right, those are the three chakras that are preceding the heart chakra, the green chakra, the one in the middle, the springboard to the higher centers. So if you're on the service to others path, you'd want to be energized in your first three chakras, and you'd want to enter your heart of love and compassion and understanding and unconditional love. And at that point, it would just naturally be a springboard up to the higher centers of free communication, prayer, universalness, etc., etc. What the service to self path does is they essentially manipulate and control everything within their bottom three chakras to maximal ability, where they take that energy and they skip the heart because they truly think that it's folly. They truly think that using the heart is just not wise. I don't know, it's just not part of their path. They don't see other selves as worthy other than just to manipulate them for the benefit of themselves. So they skip the heart chakra. They're going to go into the blue chakra of communication, right? They're going to communicate and express and manifest their service to self path in the way that they know. And, the creator neither blinks at the dark of the light, so they get to make their way on up to indigo. And I guess, I don't know exactly what happens there with them, but same thing as what happens with us. I mean, when a service to others entity reaches indigo, Ra describes that it generally is a sense of unity, of like feeling joy and comfort, just all positive things, right? You'd have like a sense of service to others. So if the service to self entity hits the indigo path, I'd have to assume that they're then able to manifest certain service to self gifts to help them on their path. It's only fair, okay? So that is the nature of them using only sort of the first three chakras, skipping the heart, going into the communication and the sort of creator chakras, if you will, up top. So that, the creator doesn't blink at the darker light. It is the free choice of all how they wish to make their way back to the creator. However, there is that anomaly, or let's just say this truth, right? The truth of the universe is unity. You can only go down the path that is not so long until the glaring truth can no longer be ignored. So what they describe in the material here is that you can choose whichever path you would like up until the sixth density. So remember how we have 7 chakras. There's sort of like an infinity of dimensions and densities. There's sort of similar things if you're not sure of what the word density is. Dimension, similar, not same, but similar. There's sort of 7 or 8 infinitely, right? It's like 7 dimensions, and then the 8th octave is like a new octave, just like on a guitar, or in the rainbow, right? You have 7 colors, and then it's like a new set after that. But anyways, that's the the idea here of the 7. So what I'm trying to say here is that the truth of the matter is that unity is true. It is true that other selves are you and you are other selves. There is no separation between us. That is called the illusion of separation. So you can go down the illusion of separation, the elusive path of service to self, and trick yourself and everyone else for a long time that this is all just a game of separateness. But to progress past 60 negative, you can't, essentially. You can't go on the negative path any further. My understanding is they've explained here is that about halfway through 6th density, the negative entity switches polarity to the positive. Now, this sounds unfair, actually. They don't have to go back and actually redo all the work and switch slowly from negative to positive. Remember how I was explaining the electricity with the work and the power? Basically what they've done is they spent their entire lives, their soul incarnated lives, right, going down this service to self path, and they've had their, the electricity somewhat on the south pole or the negative pole. They have the ability to do work in the negative, which means that within a moment's notice, a moment's intention, a satori, a revelation of truth, a realization that, oh my goodness, we truly are all one. All of my experience before was inverted. And oh my gosh, all I have to do is invert my perception right now and everything is one. right? So that is what happens to the negative path, is my understanding, is that they only go so far before they basically come up against a wall of truth that says, like, look, in order for you to progress, you're going to have to accept this truth. It sounds like you don't have any free will in that matter, right? Well, free will within no free will. I don't know. It's your call, you guys. But that's the idea of oneness, is that unity is always true, but there's a moment of time within unity that you're allowed to make your own choice of how you want to make your way back to the creator. But in the end, you will ultimately come to the conclusion that, yes, we are all one. Well, that's it. We are all one, and we're all worthy of love and infinite worth. I guess I will just briefly add on here, because this has come up a couple of times with people's questions, is, well, if your soul incarnates, your soul already has a sort of chosen path, okay? You incarnate here with certain lessons to go down that path. However, once you've incarnated, you very much are gone behind the veil of forgetting, and you may forget all of these plans that you had so diligently planned while you were in your sort of soul body, your indigo body. So with that, yeah, someone asked me, can someone be maybe on the positive path and then be choosing negative throughout their entire incarnation? And then, like, what happens? So I suppose what would happen is that, well, you may go down the negative path if you were truly a positive entity and you incarnate and you unfortunately make some choices which, bring you down the negative path. Well, I guess it's my understanding that at the end of your incarnation, after you die and you pass on, you're going to have a review of your life, and, you'll be like, oh, you'll get to see all the choices you made that led to that, and you may then get to decide what you want to do, right? Maybe you want to go and reincarnate again and just try that whole thing over again, or maybe you want to reincarnate in a little different way and tweak things, and it's the infinite possibilities is the idea here. So sure, you can totally go down the wrong path, but like I said, most people tend to see, that's kind of hard. It's hard to explain, because I was saying, well, you just need to go down the negative path. You can make the switch over to positive, but that's not necessarily true if you were a positive entity and you were, polarizing positively, and then you incarnate and you start to undo some of the work that you had previously done. So there's sort of a difference between, like if you're on the positive path and you seemingly make mistakes, you may have to reincarnate to fix those mistakes. Whereas the person on the negative path just controls everything to their maximal ability, and then later on changes their somewhat perception and their identity, and is able to just see things in a new light. So there is that little difference between, depending what path you're on, how you're going to sort of reconcile your selfishness, if you will. So I guess that's just worth noting. But it's also stated here that many people are already along the path before they consciously realize it. So you sort of make these decisions in your head. You don't need to know the law of one and service to others and service to self to come up with a lot of the same conclusions. Life is that way, right? Like, we live in a holographic projection of the one, and it's my understanding that no matter what you do and where you go and what reality you think you're living in, this universe will always present you with that choice. This third density is the density of choice, and you cannot escape your incarnative lessons. You can put them off, delay them, but the nature of a holographic universe is that they will present themselves to you over and over and over again, until you sort of figure it out, or you are able to integrate that lesson, and then the next time it comes around, it's not really a lesson anymore, right? So that's kind of how these things work. So yeah, I think that is decent. One more thing I'd like to add quickly is, right, I guess I haven't totally described the service to self path enough. I want to describe, because I just learned this the other day and I felt it was kind of eye-opening to me. So the service to self path and karma, I thought that, well, these are probably both true, okay? So the service to self path works on enslaving other people. Let's picture the pyramid. There's somebody at the top. They enslave the person below them. Basically, it's sort of like an exchange usually. It's like, hey, you know what? I'll give you some information on how to enslave other people, but you have to enslave yourself to me in order for me to help you and give you the information you need to enslave other people. And now you could see how just that philosophy right there, you can see this beautiful pyramid, right? You have someone at the top, few people below them who know just what they need to know to enslave people below them, and those people below them know just what they need to know to enslave the people below them, etc., 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 until you have this big power of control. So, two things when it comes to karma, right? You'd think like, wow, aren't these people serving themselves and manipulating others? Isn't karma going to come and bite them in the ass? And I suppose, it probably would. So here's what I know, and I could be wrong, but I just want to share with you my thoughts on the matter. So my thoughts on the matter are that two. First of all, in the raw material or the quo material somewhere recently, I read that basically a negative entity thrives on on karma. Like whenever they cause karma and they cause pain in someone's life and that comes back at them, they actually see that as a challenge. Like, great, something new for me to master, more catalyst for me to master and manipulate other people with, right? So it's like no matter how bad the karma comes back at them, that's their ability to strengthen their will, right? To strengthen their will to be on this service to self path. But then I would also suggest that if I would think this is where I'm just going to say I think that this is correct, and I'm not 100% sure. But the way that a lot of these negative entities work is they sort of have the negative entities that they have below them that they've sort of enslaved or are their minions, if you will. They'll get them to do the work that maybe would have the karma come back. So does that make sense? It's like sort of removing themselves from the equation by getting someone else to do the dirty work for them so that the karma comes back on the minion of the person who's done the dirty work for you instead of coming back directly to you. So I feel that the negative path is sort of a mix between those two things. It's sort of like they don't really care about your free will, but they care about mastering their catalyst. And to a degree, that catalyst either doesn't get returned to them, or if it does get returned to them, they're able to conquer it. Like, those are sort of the two ideas I feel that they sort of work with the most. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to share that part because and then let's talk about the service to others path. So then the service to others path, everything is catalyst for your awakening, okay? Every single thing that happens to you and the way you perceive it is for you to work on yourself and lessons of love. So we're still seeing catalyst very similar. Any catalyst that comes our way, any experience that comes our way is somewhat to our benefit and to our awakening. But it's not like that catalyst is coming to us for us to control and master and manipulate others. It's more that the service to others path is a path of acceptance, and the service to self path is a path of control. So anytime you are sort of obsessing over controlling things to a certain end, right, then you would consider that you might be, doing some negativity, right? Whereas if you're on the positive path, you're going to be working with acceptance and sort of like discipline of personality, right? There's a little bit of difference between control and discipline. I know some people think, well, what? So I just have no control and I just go and be crazy, and accept everything? To a degree, yeah, but no. Discipline of the personality. You still are a good person. You're wanting to do good things. You can't just go out and create complete chaos. You're still wanting to set your intention towards love and service and all these things. And then, if karma comes back at you, well, who cares? It's good karma, right? Karma is not a problem if you're out there doing good things. Karma only seems to be a problem if you're on the service to others path and you're acting selfishly. Then the universe says, hey, didn't you realize you're on this positive path? Maybe here, have a dose of your own medicine that you've been giving out and see how nice that is. Versus, someone on the service to self path, when that comes back to them, they just think, aha, here's another way for me to control and manipulate and figure this out to make it work for me. So, okay, guys, I think that is enough. I know it's a little hard to understand some of these things, but I think we've gone a little bit into describing them decently. I appreciate you guys listening. If you appreciate my service with making these podcasts, I want to do it on a more permanent basis, and you can help me do that by joining my Patreon or shooting me a one-time PayPal, or if you want to pick something up from my shop, that I get a little something out of that too. So all those things help support this page, give me the freedom to record more of these. And yeah, I really, really appreciate, especially my Patreon followers. I really love you guys. That continual support really helps me move forward in a way that is steady and can help, just basically helps me really do this in a more continual basis. So thank you guys. TheOneInfiniteCreator.com is where you can find links to all of that. Please give me a like, share, subscribe. Feel free to leave me a comment. If I see something in your questions, I will often write them down on little pieces of paper here for future podcast topics, such as today. This beautiful fellow seeker has asked me about polarity, and so I've somewhat tried to explain these things to her and to you guys. So I hope that serves you well, and thank you guys. I will be working on another podcast to release later this week. Take care.